Now I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Rachel Comerford. As the Director of Content Standards at Macmillan Learning, Rachel Comerford helps to implement and maintain industry and internal standards in content, platforms, and processes. Her work includes establishing internal accessibility, metadata, and EPUB implementation guides that align with best practices. She co-chairs the W3C Publishing Community Group and participates in working groups at IMS Global, BISG, and AMAC, where she asks lots of annoying questions and competes for the title of Most Snarky. She enjoys lazy strolls on the beach, red wine, and well-constructed EPUBs, complete with all of their accessibility features and metadata. Please welcome Rachel Comerford.
She's a killer queen, gunfighter, jeopardy, dynamite with a laser beam, guaranteed to blow your mind.
I want everyone to know that Svea picked my my walk-on music, and so I should warn all of you that it was not too long ago that I took a BuzzFeed quiz that told me that my spirit Muppet is Fozzie Bear. So apparently I'm not nearly as funny as I think I am, but I will be ending everything that I think is funny with Waka Waka, just so that you guys know when to laugh. So there's like a key to this. So aside from being HR's worst nightmare at Macmillan, I am the Senior Director of Content Standards and Accessibility. So I've worked at Macmillan for about 5 years. I've been in the publishing industry for about 10. I started off at W.W. Norton, then I worked at Pearson. I've done editorial work, sales work, and aside from that, I also have probably more than a decade of experience with online dating, which is unfortunate on many levels and for many different people, including you, because you're going to have to hear about it. But before I get into that too much, I do want a chance to get to know you guys a little bit better, and hopefully you'll all participate. So by a show of hands, how many of you have read all or part of the EPUB, EPUB for Education, or Accessible EPUB documentation? Show-offs. Put your hands down. Does anyone want to do this for me? Okay. So let's get a little more personal. Have you now or in the past ever tried online dating? Raise your hand. Don't nod at me. There's no shame. I've done it. Okay, keep your hands up. Keep them up. This is not showing off. Okay, so leave them up if you're still online dating. Wow. So only 3 of you are willing to admit that you're still online dating. So I say willing to admit, I know it's more than 3 of you. Come on. So this is now completely out of the question. And it also explains why I'm still single. So I went back and forth way too many times about how to bring these two topics together. I had this great idea 6 months ago where I thought it would be hilarious if I talked about both of these things. And then 6 months passed, and Laura said, "Where's your presentation?" And I said, "In my head." So anyone that saw me at the hotel bar on Tuesday night knows that this was the coming together of a lot of research and a lot of red wine. Hopefully you saw me earlier in the hotel bar on Tuesday night, because if you saw me later in the bar on Tuesday night, there was a lot of red wine. But the thing is that really brings these two experiences together is actually kind of unfortunate. And what it is convenience, right? So when I talk to people about online dating, what they tell me is the reason they do it is because it's just easier. It's easier than meeting somebody IRL. The millennials tell me that means in real life. I'm so happy I learned that. But it's the same thing with ebooks. When I talk to my friends about why they're using ebooks, and yeah, this is purely anecdotal. This isn't like a deep analytical research project for why people are using ebooks. What they tell me is it's easier. It's just easier than carrying around 4 books when you go on vacation. And yes, I am the person that takes 4 books on vacation. Don't judge me. It's easier than going out to the bookstore and trying to buy 5 books and carrying them around. It's less expensive. That's why they're using them. They're not getting any joy out of this experience. They're not buying them because they're super excited to get a new ebook. They're buying them because it's easier to get an ebook than anything else. And they're online dating because meeting somebody in real life is a royal pain in the tuchus. My grandmother loves that I just said that. But what if we got joy from reading, right? What if there were some easy steps that we could take to make reading a more joyful experience? So these are my rules. There's 4, and they apply to both. So let's see how this goes. So the first one is remember your audience. And when I say this, what I mean is stop posting gym selfies. All the gym selfies. You should probably avoid the car selfies, the bathroom selfies, and any unsolicited phalluses. Use the standards. There are standards for communication. There are things that you say online that you would never say in person. Stop saying them online. And we have these great ebook standards that are out there and these amazing people, many of whom are sitting in the audience right now that write them. Take advantage of that and get involved. Be transparent, not literally. I don't need the cellophane man. But don't say entrepreneur when you mean unemployed. Don't say that you're caring for an elderly parent when what you mean is that you live in your mom's basement. Just, expose your metadata. Don't play hard to get. So maybe like a little bit hard to get, because if you're like really not playing hard to get, then there's some issues there. But great content, or even terrible content, should be findable and usable by anyone. So this is where we really stretch the metaphor and try and dig into these a little deeper. So our first rule, remember your audience. Seriously though, why would anybody click on this picture? So you see this picture in online dating, and it says, what is it? I'm not your usual D-bag chest pick profile. Okay, why would I think that? Because I started with your picture. And the only reason I have for actually clicking on it is that I'm trying to write a presentation for ebookcraft, and I promised dating profiles would be involved. And there's no reason for me to think, after reading a profile like this, that your format, this guy's format, D-bag chest pick profiles format, fits with my content. It doesn't match. And I'm not that kind of girl, at least as long as my mother might see this. So there are no hard and fast rules for how to present your content. Not in dating, not in ebooks, right? Everything's going to vary based on what you're producing, what you're targeting, if you're looking for like a quick hookup. If you are, by the way, show me more than your pecs. And I mean shoulders up again, guys. God, I have a library. The same goes for ebooks, right? So if you're producing an ebook, I produce textbooks. I say I produce textbooks, but really my team produces textbooks. Two of them are in the audience right now and really embarrassed and hiding their faces. But when we first switched from PDFs to EPUBs as a company, I was like whole hog. Everything has to be mobile compatible. Everything has to be reflowable. I am in this. I'm fully committed to this. My textbooks are going to work on every single cell phone because everybody wants to read a complex science book on a cell phone, right? That's what you've always dreamed of? So I believed there was no room for fixed layout, not in my mobile-friendly world. And there also no room for shirtless profile pics, in case that wasn't clear. Then I came across this. This is a graphic novel meant to introduce rhetoric to students. Iris has a hard copy. So this was unexpected, to say the least. And what I realized was that I had become so deeply committed to this idea of what was the perfect format for my books that I had started ignoring the fact that there were other needs that I was going to have. And then when I started to consider how I was going to approach this, yes, the first thing that I thought was I'll have to do this as a PDF. But as Deborah Kaplan said to me yesterday, sometimes it's hard to get over our abusive X formats. And then we finally started to explore the fixed layout EPUB, with many thanks to Iris Vebris, who actually helped us design this EPUB and get it published. So this brings us to rule number 2. Do you guys get it? It's peanut butter and jelly, so it's like a standard meal, but it's also like a perfect match. Who says a joke is less funny when you explain it? Come on. So as my friend Dave Kramer says, say hi, Dave. Hi, Dave. The standards are made by the people who show up. So why does this matter? And what does this have to do with peanut butter and jelly? It has nothing to do with peanut butter and jelly. But there are 2 reasons that this is really important. One is that reading standards documentation is the worst. And everybody here raised their hands, so you know what it's like. And you admitted to that, just not online dating. Just fine, I'm not judging you publicly. I'm judging you. But I would say that as an active participant in developing these, they are dense. They're hard to interpret. They don't solve every problem. Like, there's nothing easy about standards. And it makes it super tempting to try and start something from scratch, right? Like, I'm just going to do it my way, and it's going to be fine. And we've seen those proprietary format requirements from organizations that I won't name, but maybe we could call them prime examples. Waka waka. Basically, these are benevolent dictatorships, right? They require pleading your case for your business need to be addressed. And hopefully it is, but maybe it's not. And when it's not, you need to do all of these workarounds in order to make it actually succeed. And then the second reading is that reading dating profiles is the worst. And I say this as somebody who reads them constantly. Not constantly. Every once in a while, I open up the app on my phone. Constantly sounds like a bad idea. And there are no standards in for documentation for dating profiles. And as I said before, just remember, there are like basic requirements to human interaction, right? There are things that you never say to another person. There are things you never do to another person when you meet them IRL. I feel so young. But for some reason online, we feel totally comfortable doing it. So this guy is kind of a perfect example. He's almost perfect. I know, right? Almost perfect. He's a romantic soul. He's a creative spirit. He's a genius, guys. I was messaged by a genius. He was also born on Mars, which apparently is something that I should have been looking for, but I'm not. Can you imagine walking up to somebody in a coffee shop and being like, hey, I'm almost perfect and a genius. Want to go out? I'm intrigued by you. Don't do it. You don't have to be a prince, although this remains one of my favorite messages ever. Prince O2. He must confess. My profile captured his attention. I know it's not true. It doesn't mean anything for our relationship. Come on. And then this guy, who you may have seen if you read my article, just speaks for himself. If you're not going to say it in real life, don't say it online. And in case anybody was wondering, I love my ass, so he can bite me. So being appropriate and polite is not the easiest thing to do. And I'm definitely guilty of being inappropriate at the best and worst of times. And again, if you're curious as to whether that's true or not, Franco is right here and Betsy's right there. They can let you know how often that happens. Iris is freelanced for me too, so she can tell you some stories. That better be a really nice drawing of me right there. I'm just like doing right isn't always easy. Embracing the standards that are available and applying them, contributing to groups that are establishing them. Stop producing files that lack interoperability whenever you can. And where there are gaps, help document those gaps. Benefit the rest of the publishing world. And in case you're looking for an opportunity to do that, did I mention that I co-chair the community group for EPUB at the W3C? And we're documenting best practices. Join. Anybody can join. You do not have to be a member of the W3C. Karen Myers hates me right now. Join the community group. Think of it as an entry drug, right? It's like when you're trying to be vegetarian and somebody gives you bacon. Take some time, understand what's happening within the group, contribute to the best practices documentation, make the publishing world a little bit better. We'll have better standards going forward. So the next one is to expose your metadata. Tell me about yourself. Use your metadata. And there's a mantra that comes with this. And I'm going to ask all of you to join me in saying it. And that is, expose your metadata, not yourself. So can we all just like come together and say this once? Both Betsy and Franco are literally writing their resignation letters right now. So, so everyone all at once, come on. Expose your metadata, not yourself. Okay, this is no more unsolicited headshots. Oh, come on, that was good. Fozzie Bear would have liked it. So this is surprisingly important in online dating. Giving the right information about yourself. And anybody who raised their hand about having tried online dating in the past, even though you lied and put your hand down and said that you weren't anymore, knows that I am not a psychopath is actually a really important piece of information. Really important. And that blah, blah, blah guy, probably a psychopath. So mystery is not sexy. Mystery is really annoying. And there's a wide world of metadata out there that will allow your audience to understand what you're actually producing. It makes it possible for them to find your book, to understand if they want to use it, to understand if they can use it. Don't ignore that. Embrace it. Make it a part of what you're producing. So how does metadata tell a user if they can actually use a book? The hint is in the screenshot. Accessibility metadata. Is it actually possible for your user to open up this book and make use of it? So that brings me to my next point. Don't play hard to get. And in case I wasn't clear, I never mastered the game of hard to get. My game is more something like weird oversharing followed by utter obliviousness, really bad jokes, and drinking a lot of red wine. Did I mention the red wine thing? Feel free to get me a drink tonight at trivia. I will be there. I will be drinking. But aside from the utter obliviousness, which you could argue is consistent with some of the reading experiences out there, it's important to not play hard to get as long as you're not doing what that guy's doing. I just had to have a counterexample. So don't take it this far. He's struggling with this. But in my mind, a lack of accessibility is the equivalent of playing hard to get with your paying customers, right? So let's say that you have a young woman whose name is Smachel. Just making her up. And Smachel has a crush on a super nerdy guy, because that never happens. And she proceeds to actively avoid said boy. Yeah. She's doing everything possible to sabotage that boy's interest in her by avoiding him wherever she can, talking to other boys. She is convinced that if she makes herself available, then no boy will ever be interested. Now, obviously, this is never something I would do. Actually, obviously, this is something I would never do. And I, reached out to friends for examples, because that was, not me at all. But imagine you're publishing a book, and you think it's going to be a New York Times bestseller. But you structure it so that 20% of your audience can't use it. That's insane. You've cut yourself off at the knees. You've exposed yourself in your profile pic, literally. So the reason that accessibility becomes so important to this, especially in my world, because I'm in educational publishing, NPD did a recent study. And NPD asked about 1,800 college students if they had a disability that interfered with their ability to use their course materials. Almost half of the students responded yes. So we have a stat that says about 20% of the population can't use, or requires AT, has some sort of disability. We have a stat that says 50% of our student population has that need. Don't ignore that audience. Don't play hard to get with them. Make materials that they can actually use. So hopefully, I have, in very short time, proved to you that I'm not the only thing that dating and ebooks have in common. And where does that leave us? Well, hopefully a step ahead of this guy, because I've always dreamed about dating a mannequin. I mean, this is real, guys. But a work in progress is accurate. We have a lot that we still need to do in order to get these standards up to speed, which again, participate in the community group. Give us your best practices. Tell us what we can do in order to make it better. We have a lot to do in terms of accessibility. We haven't solved all the problems. I understand from Lisa that Peter and Svea are solving all of my math problems, so I'm super excited about that one. But again, participation is key. And if you are online dating, and I know that it's more than 3 of you, so you can stop lying to me right now, just be kind and be patient and stop sending me naked pictures of yourself. That's it. Does anyone have any questions?
What's the best online dating site?
None of them. That was my answer. Iris, you had a question?
I was about to say, favorite platform, dating, favorite platform for reading?
For reading. I prefer print books. I'm not gonna lie. My favorite platform for e-reading is a Vital Source. Yeah. But that's because I spend so much of my time looking at textbooks, and that's a great textbook platform. In terms of fiction, I like having a book. For dating, none of them. Yeah. Is that it? Cool. Thanks, guys.